Yes, we are now, we have begun, this will be day 7. Um, the process suffered a a setback this morning, sorry, because of the heavy rainfall. Many of the stations unable to start their operations on time, but we have overcome that difficulty and the process is moving quite smoothly as I speak. Um, there are still glitches that are occurring. This morning we had a problem with the DCO uh, changing what I understand to be a decision of the Commission that persons who are objecting to matters taking place in the recount exercise, those objections must be recorded, but when the other political parties respond to those objections, those response must not be recorded. Now that cannot be right. That cannot be in the best interest of fairness and natural justice. The commission decision, as I understand it, is that once an objection is made or a query is made, it should be recorded in that observation report, and the matter should not delay and detain the counting of the ballots. The counting of the ballots must proceed, but each person who has a view, who has an objection, that objection or that query must be recorded in the observation report. Fairness and natural justice dictate the word, or else you hear none. You can't take objections from one party but prohibit and prevent the other party from having their say or having a response proffer to that objection. So that is a matter which I understand will have to go back to the commission, because we raised it on the floor with Mr. Lowenfield and he said that he's unaware of that decision. So these are the little things that are unnecessary and are time consuming. Yesterday, for example, we had a series of queries regarding to determine the validity of a ballot if the X is not in the box next to the symbol. Now that is that GECOM has a manual on. It's a matter that has been the subject of repeated decisions from the inception of this process. But yet again, the situation arises, the issue arises, and persons are not applying the ruling already made on these issues, and it has to go back, or they have to go back to the commission for another intervention of the commission. These are time-wasting exercise. Hence, all for this list of rules, list of rulings, and the matters to which they pertain is so indispensable, accelerating the process. You know that we have asked for that. They have made a list. It's not an exhaustive list, but they have not distributed it formally to the parties. We got our eyes on it because our commissioners allowed us the opportunity to look at it. That document should be sent to the workstations and should be given to all the stakeholders, so that whenever these issues reoccur, proceed smoothly. Up to now, that has not been done. We intend to canvass that today. The other matter that I want to offer some comment on is the repeated reference by some persons who come out here and speak to the media, including, unfortunately, commissioners of GECOM. They reference this exercise as an audit. That must be rejected out of hand, and that narrative, every time it presents itself, must be corrected. If you examine the evolution of this process, it started with the PPP calling for a recount of the ballots of Region 4. Then it was expanded to all the regions. Then you had the chairperson of the commission giving an undertaking to count all the ballots cast at elections. Then you had leader of the opposition for a recount of the ballots to be done. Then you had a 2-week hiatus that GECOM used to negotiate the terms and methodology and modality that will be employed to recount the ballots. Mr. Alexander, at some point in time during that exercise, had advocated indeed and in fact for an audit. That was obviously rejected, and the commission crafted an order to govern its procedure during this exercise. And the exercise in the opening of the order is described as a national recount exercise. The exercise, the order, if you examine it, the language of this order by which GECOM is bound makes no reference whatsoever to an audit. It speaks to a recount of the ballots. So every time they speak about an audit here, they are extending the scope of the exercise beyond its lawful limit. They are extending it outside of the four corners of that order. And insofar as they are doing so, they are inviting GECOM to act in excessive jurisdiction, to act unlawfully, to act ultra vires, because GECOM is committed to the four corners of that order and to conduct an exercise called a national recount of ballots. So I thought that I'd go through the whole evolution of it so that the people of Guyana are reminded, that the press is reminded, not to encourage the type of discussion that takes this exercise outside of its remit and its stated mandate. Once you do so, you are taking the exercise outside and excessive of its jurisdiction. And it is wrong and it is unlawful to do that.
All right, two things. Why do you believe the commission had not passed down that document to the parties? Would you say it was an oversight or perhaps some other reason?
The commission has not been known to act efficiently in a lot of matters. And I say that with the greatest of regret and with the deepest of respect to those who constitute the commission. But that is the truth. In fact, if the commission had functioned efficiently, competently, and in the manner that it should, we should not have been here. This exercise should have never occurred. The commission should have intervened at the appropriate time that we are in. So I say to you that I cannot begin to imagine or try to explain the reason why the commission did not make that document public, because it's sensible, it's good administrative measures, it's good public administration to make rules and make give explanations for why you make rules, and you ask that if you are undertaking an exercise, that it be conducted in accordance with these rules, and you police the exercise that it complies with those rules.
And sir, just secondly, given all these little things that have popped up, do you think that the count will be able to be completed in the 25 days?
Recognizes that the time frame of 25 days is now in jeopardy. I think even GECOM yesterday, I think they raised that concern. I think even the commissioners of GECOM, when they speak, alluded to that issue. It is a live matter that is causing concern, and that is why one of the things that we are asking for GECOM to consider for working during the day, but also to eliminate time wasting exercise, some of which I made reference to earlier, and also consider the establishment of additional workstations. Now, you have elements within the exercise who are doing things that are deliberately stalling the process. For example, refusing to open the containers after 5 p.m. to release more ballot boxes, when the exercise is scheduled to conclude at 7. Between 5 to 7, one can count almost 10 boxes, a box in each station. A 2 hours period is a long period. especially when you have some boxes and you can select them as well. As you are approaching the end of day, for example, as you approach 6:30, you still have half of an hour. Get a box with 30 ballots. There are boxes like that in there. There are boxes with 10 ballots, and you count that. Today we had a late start. I hope that GECOM would become innovative and they would extend the working hour so that they can compensate for the time lost due to inclement weather. These are the progressives so that we can get a feel and we can feel satisfied that GECOM is assiduously working to meet its own deadline. Because we are seeing elementary secretariat staff who are doing things that one can interpret as affecting GECOM to meet the deadline. For example, I gave you an incident that occurred this morning, which should not have occurred because it's a clear matter that there has been a ruling on already. But one member of staff unilaterally alters or want to change an established decision of the commission. It can't happen. We can't keep reinventing and inventing the wheel as we go along.
Mr. Manalal, taking you back to that same incident, clarification, was there an agreement prior that the report will contain the issues and objection raised rather than also contain a response by a party agent or so?
Scope of the observation report has expanded significantly from the commencement of the exercise. The observation report, as I understand it conceptually, was intended to just chronicle whatever observation one may see as the counting exercise proceeds. For example, a party seal is broken on a box. That should have been in the observation report. I believe that it was intended to be the receptacle of those type of observations. The scope of this observation report now has expanded gigantically to embrace every single observation, so that you have observations unsubstantiated and that are irrelevant, that are innocuous, that are frivolous, that are all dumped into this observation report, making it somewhat like a garbage bin, so to speak, of the workstation. So a man stands up and said, serial number 21, this man has migrated. Another agent said, but how you know that? Well, I don't have to tell you how I know that. All of that they're putting in the report. Whereas if you don't have an iota of evidence to say that this man bearing this serial number is not out of the country, then your objection should not be entertained. Everything is. So if the rule is that you are going to one side to inundate the report with irrelevance, then that rule applies to every participant. That is what fairness dictates. And that is unfortunately the state that we have arrived at in relation to the observation report.
All right, I have one more question just for my clarity. If we need an extension past the 25 days, is this, would we need to amend the current order, or is this a decision that could be made by the GECOM chair herself?
No, the commission will have to meet and the commission will have to amend the order to extend the time, and the order will have to be duly advertised and published in the official gazette.